week on Africa Weekly. We profile South Africa's new president, Cyril Ramaphosa, at the helm after scandal-ridden Jacob Zuma was forced from power. We travel to Nigeria, where the conflict between farmers and herders has become deadlier than Boko Haram attacks. And we join a tracker dog unit, which has become pivotal in the fight against poaching in the Mara Triangle in southern Kenya. But first, a summary of the stories that made the headlines this week. Having clung to power for weeks as pressure from his own party mounted, Jacob Zuma finally stepped down as president of South Africa.
I've served the people of South Africa to the best of my ability. I am forever grateful that they trusted me with their highest office in the land.
The following day, ANC party leader Cyril Ramaphosa was elected as the country's new president.
I declare the Honorable Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa duly elected President of the Republic of South Africa.
Zuma had been in a power struggle with Ramaphosa, his deputy president since 2014. In December's ANC leadership election, Ramaphosa narrowly beat Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Zuma's former wife and chosen successor, breaking the former president's hold over the ruling party. In a direct reference to accusations levelled against his scandal-tainted predecessor, Ramaphosa used his first speech in office to vow to fight corruption. Members of Zimbabwe's Movement for Democratic Change mourned the death of opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai, who passed away this week at the age of 65. The MDC leader was being treated for colon cancer in a hospital in neighbouring South Africa. His death firmly places President Emmerson Mnangagwa on the path to victory in elections, due to be held before July. One of Tsvangirai's 3 deputies, Nelson Chamisa, has been appointed as acting leader for the coming year.
We've lost a doyen of democracy. We have lost the champion of the working people's struggles.
Retired Archbishop and Nobel laureate Desmond Tutu has quit as ambassador for Oxfam after the British charity was hit by sexual misconduct allegations. Supporters welcomed the release of a jailed opposition leader and journalist in Ethiopia, who had been charged with having links to a banned group. The release comes amid a string of pardons and prisoner releases that began last month, after the Prime Minister said the government would release jailed politicians in order to improve the national consensus and widen the democratic platform. The government also dropped charges against a group of bloggers accused of inciting violence.
South Africa enters the Ramaphosa era. The 65-year-old former anti-apartheid activist who moved from politics to business has been elected president by the South African Parliament. He takes over from Jacob Zuma, who finally resigned after being pushed out of his party. The ANC appointed Cyril Ramaphosa as its head in December with a clear agenda to end the corruption which defined the Zuma era.
Issues that have to do with corruption, issues of how we can straighten out our state-owned enterprises, and how we deal with state capture are issues that are on our radar screen. Those are issues that we're going to be addressing, and tomorrow we will also have an opportunity to outline some of the steps that we are going to be taking.
Ramaphosa was an activist from the beginning of the struggle against apartheid and was seen by many as a presidential heir apparent to Nelson Mandela. But after failing to succeed his mentor in 1999, he decided to move from politics to business, where he became one of the wealthiest men in South Africa. Among the first to benefit from the policy of positive discrimination for blacks, he became an economic success while much of South Africa was experiencing financial difficulties.
Right now, his appeal to broad society is defined by the fact that he's not Jacob Zuma. How that changes once Jacob Zuma is out of the picture, I think, is another ballgame altogether.
Now alone, he must try and improve the ANC's image. His goal, to win the 2019 general election and finally fulfill the promise of the Rainbow Nation dreamt by Nelson Mandela.
At the cattle market in Makurdi in central Nigeria, cattle are increasingly rare commodities. Fulani herders used to come here in droves to sell their animals, but the increase in communal violence with farmers in the region has forced them elsewhere. For the last 3 months, it's been illegal even for them to bring their animals into Benue State, and that's a disaster for the local economy.
If it's anti-grazing law stop, I hope that market to come back fresh. And also, no, this is not the only market. All Benue State can do normal.
Hundreds of people in this part of the country have died in the violence since the start of this year. The long-running conflict began as a battle for land and water. Climate change and desertification has pushed the nomadic herders into southern Nigeria in search of land for grazing. That's put them at odds with locals. Tit-for-tat attacks have seen the conflict escalate.
I am appealing to the federal government to quickly intervene to solve this problem so that the nomadic Fulanis that are residing in Benue should be allowed freely to move with their cow. The constitution of this country, Nigeria, section 40, allow everybody to move anywhere he wants to go.
Attacks by armed Muslim herders have forced thousands of mainly Christian farmers to flee their villages. This school is now home to 10,000 people who are waiting for an end to the conflict.
They destroy our crops, they even burn our houses, and they continue those attacks till they push us.
The fighters came to our villages and we started to run. They killed, then we ran away.
President Muhammadu Buhari, himself a northern Fulani Muslim, has been widely criticised for his response to the crisis. But the army is now sending in troops to the affected areas to try to end the violence.
Shikaria may only be 5 months old, but she's already in training, sniffing out a ranger posing as a poacher in the savannah. She's one of 5 puppies being groomed for a tracker dog unit in Kenya's Masai Mara Reserve. Top of her class, her trainers believe she's got what it takes.
Dogs that are active, dogs that like to eat, play a lot, things like that. But like I said, genetics and drives is what we're looking for, the proper drive to do the work.
This canine unit has become essential in the fight against poaching in the Mara Triangle in southern Kenya. Over 1 million wildebeest and tens of thousands of other animals cross from Tanzania on their annual migration, attracting hordes of tourists, but also poachers seeking an easy target.
They normally put wire snares, and maybe they can chase into valleys and use the machetes, the swords, and the pangas to cut them.
During migration season in July and August, the rangers find thousands of deadly snares set up in the park. The main challenge here is poaching for the commercial bushmeat trade, which in 2014 a government-appointed task force warned was reaching unprecedented levels. The canine unit has grown from 2 tracker dogs in 2009 to 4 dog trackers and 2 detector dogs trained specifically to sniff out ivory and guns at the entrances to the park.
There's still a lot of work to do, but we caught over, I think, 4,000 poachers in the last 18 years. So that speaks great, how much they put effort to it. Without that, we could have thousands and thousands of animals dead.
And with this next contingent of trainees, the unit is set to grow even further. The 5 puppies only have a few weeks left to prove they're up to the task, which is becoming more urgent by the day.
Sabrina Simadar became Kenya's first female alpine skier to compete in the Winter Olympics. As the only member of the national team, she also waved her country's flag at the opening ceremony in Pyeongchang. The 19-year-old athlete moved from Kenya to Austria at the age of 3, where her passion for skiing was born. Next week, we travel to the village of Goba in Liberia, the front line of a national dispute over land ownership dating back to the mid-19th century. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.